is related to the school food service deficit. Again, I would point out that financial figures in the fiscal year are fluid and evolving. For example, our FC1A, this is our school food service financial report that is posted with the Department of Public Instruction. On July 7, 07, showed a $97,579.87 deficit, yet the 907 auditor's report indicated a $90,340 deficit. The difference is due to the continuing activity of the account until it is closed out. Our finance officer reported to the Board of Education in November of 2007 that we would experience a significant deficit in school food service for 07-08 due to our low meal costs and our high labor expenses. The July 14, 2008 child nutrition account showed a $599,466.42 deficit. Yet the July 21, 2008 FC1A for the Department of Public Instruction indicated a loss of $476,538.70. I'm breaking away from my comment here to say, if an individual doesn't understand the complexity, the fluidity of school finance, this seems odd to them. And the fact of the matter is the figures are ever changing because invoices are coming in, bills are being paid, the fund balance, well, it's not a fund balance, the balance or the bottom line is continually changing in the account because the activity that still evolves in the account. When we bring reports to you, we bring the reports of the status of the account effective at that time. A week later, 2 weeks later, it's going to be different. That's why when we look at certain accounts and reports and working documents and the information that we share with you, we have to take into consideration the timing of that information. I would again point out that the deficit in the child nutrition account is due to our low breakfast and lunch prices at the school, increased by our high labor costs at the school cafeteria level. The school district and the Board of Education has taken steps to balance the child nutrition account. Meal prices have been increased, labor costs decreased. Due to the 08-09 school year, we will seek every avenue, during the 08-09 school year, we will seek every avenue to continue to reduce our costs and increase our revenue. I do have one closing comment, but I want to know if Mr. Totten understands the status of the child nutrition deficit.
I do with what you've said, but that thing went from the first that we heard that there was any deficit at all was in Dr. Bryant was still here, and he brought it to us at that time and said we had about a $200,000 shortage in it, and then all of a sudden that shortage kept continuing, and in 4 months later it's $600,000. And what bothers me is why wasn't it brought to us earlier to make some change instead of just delaying? This money, we had to make up this money. I don't know how much of this money we had to make up.
Well, we're going to have to balance the child nutrition budget.
I realize
we were told in November of 07, I remember getting that report, that was going to happen.
This money the balance of this deficit was covered by the fund balance that we had on hand at June 30th of 2007 in child nutrition.
She told us that at the time.
Yes. It has not come out of the local budget or any other fund source to make up the difference.
I also remember her telling us that now it can be covered by our fund balance. However, you all need to start thinking about this because if it keeps going this way, it won't be able to be covered by our fund balance in the future.
But we couldn't really change lunch prices mid-year.
No.
We did adjust them, but my question is not about how it got there. My question is why didn't we do something about it earlier? That $600,000 had to come from somewhere, and you said fund balance. Somebody's doing without.
No, child
We had a
nutrition
child
fund balance.
nutrition fund
We had a
balance.
fund balance in child nutrition.
But it isn't that great. You told us that we had to.
It was as of
Not
June
now.
the 30th of 2007. It was great enough to cover the deficit. It won't be when we're through with the fund in 08-09. The fund balance is dropped.
But I think for
Exactly
clarification,
what you told us
the
before.
deficit has been zeroed out. We will start the 08-09 school year with no deficit in child nutrition.
Correct.
We have made adjustments to meal prices and labor costs to try to create a more equitable balance. So hopefully we won't face this situation.
In fact,
As
don't
I
I
also
also
said,
recall that you called a consultant when we first realized there was a problem. That consultant told us this problem is happening everywhere in the state due to increased food prices, that we were actually in a lot better shape than most. She commended us for catching it so early and trying to do something about it, and she gave us recommendations, which we then followed, which is why we're going to be in okay shape for next year. Is that right? That's what I remember.
That was the recommendations. You took all of the
We took all of
consultants'
the recommendations and we implemented them.
immediately after finding out, though, about the $200,000 deficit, the food service director then resigned. We went out, Ms. Smith, was that her name? Okay, she resigned, and then a little bit later on, we hired another person who didn't even last 2 weeks. Now, that was a different set of circumstances, I guess, but we had a consultant in here on staff, I guess you could call him that. And yes, we did get some advice, but you know, why didn't we keep him around so he could help us work our way out of this problem? I mean, that's not a question for you, it's a question for over here.
I think his role is limited to assessing our situation and giving us recommendations to go forward. I don't know what else he has done. But no, yeah, the woman, right?
Yes.
But she wasn't even interested in
Yeah, she
applying for
was-
the position,
No.
she just was coming in
So
and
what was
she,
she-
yeah, it was irate.
And you notice on the agenda tonight, members of the board, under business and finance, child nutrition program update, we did wish to continue this conversation relative to the steps that we're making to try to improve and pull back into balance our child nutrition program. So this is ongoing. It's ongoing. We're continuing to work on it, and we feel you, administration, have put some things in place to stop the hemorrhaging, and we still need to find leadership, Mr. Totten, to help us with our child nutrition programs. Ms. Little and I just aren't comfortable with the people we've interviewed for this. Well, we'll talk about it when we get to that item.
Okay, any other questions or comments about this child nutrition deficit question? Colonel Totten, does this satisfactorily address your question?
One more comment.
No comment?
No.
It doesn't address your concern, or it does? I'm sorry, I don't understand.
The question really has to do with the policing of that program and quick identification. If that's in place, then yes, I'm satisfied.
So, when was the $200,000 deficit discovered, do you know?
We were talking about the losses as of June the 30th of last year. And the number did change from the time we submitted the FC1A at June 30th of 2007 to DPI, and from the time the auditors came in. There were some other projections at that time, but the final numbers that actually turned out to be were the ones that Mr. Logan has placed in this note to the board. However, the losses continued as we began to, in the 07-08 fiscal year, to accumulate. And by the time the consultant came in and started the work and gave the board the projections at that time, they were based on numbers later in November. So all of this stuff has been moving in a fluid direction since the beginning. But these windows where we actually look at these amounts are based on snapshots, June 30th, and then again in September after the audit field work was done, again in November. This has been a progressive ongoing thing. Just something else, to go back to why we have not made these changes quicker, Ms. McManus pointed out the lunch price recommendations, the adjustments were effective July 1. The other thing is the food cost that the board did approve last year in August were for the 07-08 year. So there was not a way to go back and undo all of that without making a major change in the program that would have been disruptive to the entire school system, and that would have not been
And we
good
hadn't
for
raised meal prices in like, what, 10, 15 years, something like that?
Yes.
I remember that on the recommendation that we hadn't raised them and we were pretty low because you gave us suggestions.